Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Switch On. I'm your host, Ben Lamoureux, and I'm joined by two returning guests. Kelly decided not to edit herself out of the last episode, so we brought her back again. Welcome back, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
And returning from the last Pokemon-themed appearance, we also have Steven.
I'm a skitty.
I learned something new today. Oh, it must be from Mystery Dungeon, right?
It is.
All right, well, we'll be talking about that in just a moment here. We were originally going to do a full episode of predictions and hopes for Nintendo in 2020, but then there was a surprise Pokemon Direct, so instead we're going to be breaking down that Direct and talking about what we liked, and then maybe giving some predictions. So first of all, I know we want to get into the Sword and Shield DLC, and that'll be the bulk of this episode, but the Direct actually opened with the reveal of a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, or rather a remake of an old Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Steven, I understand you've been playing that. Are you enjoying the demo they released?
I am. It's actually not all that different since it's a remake of the first two. So there's, not a lot going on in the demo that I haven't already done before, but I am incredibly excited that they are remaking this. I remember back when I had Red Rescue Team on the Game Boy Advance, I wound up trading it in to GameStop to get money towards something else, and I immediately regretted it. So I'm very excited to be able to dive into it again. Also,
have you never played it again since then?
I've played some of the later ones, but I never quite found the time to, put as much thought into it as the other ones.
Sure.
I was gonna say, one thing I really like about the demo, though, is there's a dedicated button for admiring the artwork.
Really?
And it's actually labeled as Admire Illustration, I think it is. And the game is just absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to see the entire thing. But I love that you can just, turn off all the menu options and just look at it.
When you click that option, it should take a screenshot and send it to the art director. Someone liked your work today.
It's I'm sorry about the 1,000 notifications you're getting straight from me. But...
Did you have a chance to check that out at all, Kelly?
I haven't. I never played any of the original Pokemon dungeons, but I might just have to now because I think I saw that you can play as a Cubone, and my life needs to be complete with that Cubone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I never really got into the series either. I had a friend that was pretty big into it, so I played a little on his file or whatever, but it never really clicked for me. But if I can find some free time in playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, then maybe I'll check out the demo. It's a free demo, and then the full game launches on March 6th, I believe, so not far away at all.
And your save data carries over to the full game, so if you needed any extra incentive to play the demo, there it is.
Alright, well with that small appetizer out of the way, let's get to the main course. Pokemon Sword and Shield are getting expansion passes. There's going to be 2 new areas to explore, 200 more Pokemon, including new and old legendaries, and a whole lot more. It's a lot to break down, but we're going to try. So to start off, what did you two think of the reveal trailer? Is there anything that you're particularly excited about? Why don't you kick us off, Steven?
Well, I don't know if there's anything major for me. I think the biggest thing is I'm just excited to see all the new and returning Pokemon. Particularly the new ones, just to see what else they can do. I always like looking at the new Pokemon designs, so I'm very much anticipating the reveal of things we haven't seen before. Also, some of my favorites are coming back from more recent gens.
Garchomp.
For instance. Well, yeah, I was thinking more Volcarona and Talonflame, but there's a lot of really good ones coming back that I'm going to be very happy about.
Yeah, as a big nerd who likes to do competitive battling where, you train them up with all the right stats and everything, I'm interested in how these 2 new waves of 100 Pokemon will influence the competitive game. I think it'll change up what's popular and, what are the most commonly used things and everything like that. So it'll be fun just to have it keep evolving and not get stagnant.
For sure.
Kelly, was there anything that really caught your eye in the new trailers?
Well, yes. Sorry.
Well, we have our answer. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
I just feel like there was a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I always get very overwhelmed whenever I watch a direct, especially because they just throw so much at you, and like I have to rewatch the trailer like 7 times in order to catch many different things. But one of the biggest things that stood out to me was there was a quote right at the end, and it said the wild area was only the beginning. And I'm wondering if that means that this whole DLC, like, is it like all wild area with like a few towns here and there? Because like the original wild area was huge. So does that mean they're making an even bigger wild area?
So I think my understanding of it is that it'll be open with the free camera control like the wild area is. So it'll kind of be in that style. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be true traditional towns in there or not. We saw like there's a training dojo on the Isle of Armor, and there's a couple of battle towers. And then in the other DLC, the Crown Tundra, there's like some temples to explore and stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure if there will be towns or not, but it'll definitely have that sort of wild area open feel, which I'm totally excited about, because it always felt weird to me when you'd go back into a town or just like a standard route after being in the wild area, and suddenly I can't control the camera anymore, and I'm like, flicking the joystick like, come on, let's go.
Yeah, it's interesting because it helps when you have a camera that just stays still. It kind of helps guide you to like the correct or like way they want you to go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited, but I just want so much more wild area. The wild area was, when I first entered it, it was huge. There was so much space. There were so many things. And now that I've beaten the game, I'm like, this is actually pretty tiny.
Yeah.
Now that you've, gotten used to it and know where all the areas are, you're just like, oh, this is actually like kind of small in comparison.
When you have like all the bike upgrades, you can zip across it pretty quickly. So like once a day, I basically go all the way around the perimeter and then sort of the inside of it, hitting all the dens just to get the watts or whatever to spend on items. So it's like, I can make my way through the whole thing hitting all the dens in like 10 minutes or whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Camp. I want more of a Pokemon world to explore. One thing that I'm kind of sad about is the fact that there's no voice acting in these games, because the Crown Tundra area is supposed to be based on Scotland, I guess, and I would just love to see Scottish accents everywhere.
Oh no. Now I'm gonna do that in my head when I play.
Yeah, I'm already booting up the David Tennant voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see kind of what, like kind of how the story continues, because where I'm at right now, my Pokemon are at level like 88 to 91.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this even going to be like a challenge for me going into this new DLC area? Like, are the Pokemon going to be level 100? Are there, because the wild area isn't like anything to me anymore because my Pokemon are so overpowered right now.
Right.
It's almost like harder when I want to catch something, because like I can't attack it because literally everything will one-shot it. So I don't know. I am really, really curious to see how they continue the story on. And I'm also really excited because this potentially means that they're going to bring in maybe not all, but, they can bring in so many more Pokemon now.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be the end of the DLC either. If this goes over well, they could decide to do, another couple packs in 2021 even.
Yeah. And I know there was so much kind of back and forth of people not really liking the game because, quote unquote, their favorite Pokemon wasn't in the game. Sure, whatever. But this could potentially be the way that they bring in those old Pokemon, because they've said it multiple times, is different regions equal out to different Pokemon. So going to these different regions, it would make sense that maybe older Pokemon are in there, or hey, maybe they'll make a DLC and you go back to Pallet Town. Who knows?
Oh man, that would be so fun.
Man.
Yeah, having like a Kanto expansion or something.
Yeah, kind of like a callback.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be cute.
Yeah, so of the 2 DLC packs, the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, I'm looking forward to both, but I think I'm looking forward to the Crown Tundra more, which sucks a little because it's the later one, so I'll probably have to wait till like October, November, something like that. They said fall next year, and they've said late next year. But there was a lot of cool stuff in that trailer for me. I'm especially interested in it appears to be new Reggie Pokemon, like the Regice, Regirock, Registeel. I was never a big fan of those, but they showed off concept art of what looks like a temple with like an electric Reggie and a dragon Reggie, and so I'm kind of interested in that. And then there's the new like main story relevant legendary for Crown Tundra is Calyrex, who is psychic / grass type, and he has kind of an interesting backstory on the website. So I'm interested to see more of that, and like you said, just sort of see where the story goes.
Yeah, you're talking about the Reggies, and I didn't notice this the first time through, but when I was rewatching the reveal for prepping for this episode, I noticed that the dot patterns on them actually kind of resemble an X and a Y. So I don't know if maybe there's some sort of callback going on to X and Y, or if that's just there as a little Easter egg or something like that. I just thought it was pretty interesting because they did have that. They showed that temple that was like split in half, and it's clearly linked to those Reggies because the pattern on them is the same. So I'm very intrigued by what this could possibly mean.
Yeah, I'm excited to go explore that temple. I know that for sure. So let's move on a little bit. Game Freak said there's still plenty that we haven't seen yet, that they're still working on, that they're going to be revealing in future trailers. So is there anything that you're really hoping to see added in these updates, or any predictions on what you expect to see from the Isle of Armor or the Crown Tundra? Why don't you kick this one off, Kelly?
I might just be a really difficult person to please because I almost want like more customization from that game. It definitely, and I mean, like I've never really been able to customize in a Pokemon game because I only played up to Gen 3 and then stopped.
Hey,
and
they
then,
let you be a boy or a girl in Gen 3.
Yeah, so much customization. So much. But like I love the character customization in this game, but I'm almost wondering, like, I don't know, like they could make it completely different. Like in the trailer it was a yellow, what was it, like almost a kimono kind of, but not really.
Yeah, I think for Isle of Armor, I think you get like training gear for the dojo.
Yeah. And I was like, I really don't want it to be yellow.
Oh my god, same.
Like, please let me either choose to dye it somehow or be able to come in multiple colors, because like yellow is not my color.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just something like that would, something so tiny and minuscule would please me. But I don't know. I'm trying to predict what Slowpoke is going to look like just because they teased it so much in the trailer. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, presumably it'll have 2 different forms, right? The Slowbro and the Slowking Galar versions. So
yeah,
I wonder if there'll be different types. That'd be kind of interesting. Take it 2 completely different directions.
Because like it's mostly psychic, and then I believe psychic water, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and the one from the concept art, a lot of people were speculating that maybe it'll be poison because it had kind of like a purple tip on its tail, and it looked like there was maybe some purple on its face, but most of its face was blacked out, so you couldn't really see.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering what's going to go on with the new rival. I'm wondering if there's going to be kind of like another form of Team Yell, where they were kind of like Team Rocket, but they really weren't, because they weren't trying to do bad on purpose. They were just, trying to cheer on their person. And I don't know. I almost want like the little bit of like rivalry in the form of like like more, I don't even know how to put it, because like Hop was so like childish rivalry in the form.
Very
and
supportive of you.
I'm sorry, but he's not that great. But I'm hoping that it's actually like more of a challenge with this new rival. Like it's just pretty boring when you can really easily like just level up your Pokemon and be like, yeah, everything's one shot. So I want like way more of like dynamics in the form of like, maybe you don't know the type of Pokemon. Obviously we already do, because she's wearing the poison uniform and the other person's wearing the psychic uniform. So can kind of guess in that. And that also, going back to the Slowpoke, that would be a great idea if he is psychic poison, because then either of those rivals could use it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the new rivals, they look a little eccentric, I guess. They're both training to be gym leaders, so I guess you kind of have to look really out there. So I wouldn't mind if they had a little more of like a larger than life in your face personality and were a little more, jerkish than Hop, but I don't know if that's the direction they'll go or not. How about you, Steven? Is there anything you are really hoping for? Or predicting, perhaps, from just clues that you saw in the initial trailer?
Well, I don't know so much about predicting, but a couple things that I'm kind of hoping they throw in. So we got with the Crown Tundra, we saw like the birds. I don't know if they've officially confirmed it, but it's pretty much like the Galarian bird trio.
Yes.
And you mean like the Kanto trio, right?
Yeah.
But in Galarian form.
Right. So I would love to see if they extend that concept to the other legendaries, since they've teased that like all these legendaries are coming back and you can fight them in the den. So it'd be really interesting to see if they have other forms. Also, if there's not a Bee Gees reference on the Isle of Armor, it would be a tragedy.
Yeah, the Isle of Armor is supposed to be based off the Isle of Man, if you weren't aware. And Steven's been getting mileage out of that Bee Gees joke.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'll see myself out. No, I don't know. There's anything too much that I'm predicting, other than maybe just some new Gigantamax forms. I mean, we've seen that the starters are getting them finally.
Finally being the key word there.
Yeah, well, I'm really very interested in how that works too, because up to this point, you either have the Gigantamax or you don't. There's no sort of way to convert between the two. So I'm wondering if maybe like all the starters just automatically get it, if there's a story reason, like you have to go through special training to unlock that potential. So I guess I'm really interested to see how that turns out. I would imagine there's probably some sort of story reason to it, given that the theme of the Isle of Armor is growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. There has to be something to do with like the dojo in the form of like, I don't know, like, hey, we figured out how to Gigantamax these Pokemon. Do you want to train yours to Gigantamax? Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah, I've seen enough anime. Some old guy at a dojo will bring out your latent power. And
oh no.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts I have about it. I don't know if any of this will come to pass, but Kelly, you had mentioned, what are they going to do about levels? Is everything just going to be like level 100 or what? A friend of mine had proposed the idea that maybe, it's an island, you got to get on a boat and go there or whatever. So he proposed the idea that maybe you get there and you find out you can't bring your Pokemon with you. And so we know that Cub Fu is going to be very important to the story, and that the story will somehow revolve around training him up, or her up. I'm assuming it can be either. And so it's possible that, maybe Cub Fu is basically your new starter Pokemon, and that you're just going to start over, and then after you complete Cub Fu's training and evolve it and unlock its Gigantamax and all that, maybe then, for whatever story reason, then you unlock all your old Pokemon. You can have, just full reign of your godlike team to go around, killing everything in the wild area. But, I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if they'll, have kind of a clean slate. They made a big deal of saying that you get to keep all your save data. So some people, I don't know, Pokemon fans complain about everything, so I'm sure some people would complain if they have to start fresh in the DLC, but I think it's definitely an interesting idea, and I'm not really sure how you balance things if you don't do that.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting if you could, like, start a whole new team.
Yeah. Well, especially since there's, new creatures on the Isle of Armor that you won't be able to find in Galar proper.
True, yeah.
And I guess, with maybe not so much the Isle of Armor, but the Crown Tundra, one of the things I keep coming back to is this idea of, like, the minor league gyms. They mention a lot, and, I feel like there maybe somewhere between both of these packs, we might be able to explore that idea a bit more. And
definitely. That was something I wanted to see more of in the base game. They kind of name drop them early on, and then it just, like, it's a thread they never pick up again, really.
Right, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at least, one or two, especially, with, as we mentioned, your rival in the Isle of Armor is training to be a gym leader, too, so it might be a good experience for them to have, like, an internship of sorts, maybe. I don't know, how that would work in context, but I think there's a lot there they could do with it that I really hope they do.
Yeah, kind of explore what it's like being in, the minor leagues, not having the fame of these more prominent gym leaders, and, working hard to get your shot at the Galar Championship. That could be a really cool storyline, especially since you're already the champion in this storyline.
Yeah, I almost want to see what it would be if you were like, hey, I want to be a gym leader instead of the champion. Would that even be possible in that world?
Yeah, I'm just gonna... I want to take things a little easier, tired of, this super high level of fame. Let's take it down a notch.
Yeah, like, I'm retiring just down a few
Semi-retired. And so speaking of the Crown Tundra again, one of the big new features of that is that you'll actually be able to go deep inside Pokemon dens. So, like, in the wild area, whenever you come across a den, you kind of see the red outside of it, and it's supposed to be like you're triggering it and a Pokemon is coming out of its hole. But the idea for Crown Tundra is you're going into that hole, down into the earth, and exploring in its caves, which I like for one part because there really wasn't much cave exploration in the base game, and I feel like that's kind of a key component of most Pokemon games. And I just kind of like the idea of, like, this underground labyrinth that kind of slowly goes, like, deeper and gets harder and more confusing with more rare and more powerful spawns the deeper you go. I think that would be really cool if, like, it's kind of like an endurance test, like, how many floors deep or whatever can you make it into the catacombs underneath Galar, and the further you go, the better the rewards. I don't know if that's the direction they'll take it, but I hope so. And then the only other note I really had on, sort of hopes or predictions is, if you guys noticed, they said that Calyrex, the legendary, in the trailer that said he, in ancient times, was king over a portion of Galar. But then on the official website, it says he was king over all of Galar in ancient times. So I'm curious what's up with that, why there's the discrepancy. And I'm also curious how a Pokemon becomes king in the first place. Was there a vote? Did humans vote? Did Pokemon vote? How does that work? What's the Pokemon bureaucracy?
Hey, there are actual places in the U.S. that have cats as their mayor. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's also said that, it's a psychic type, and I guess it's supposedly able to see the past and the present and the future all at once. So I'll be interested to see if they use this Pokemon to sort of explain more of Galar's history, because, like, we still know relatively little about, like, ancient Galar and its kings and who the heroes were, or even who's Zacian and Zamazenta are. Like, we know they were needed to stop, the whatever it's called, the Great Calamity or whatever. That's the wrong term, but you know what I mean. The Day of Darkness. We know they were necessary to stop it, but we don't know why. Like, why are these two wolf legendaries specifically necessary for that? So there's like all kinds of things that the base game didn't really answer story-wise that Calyrex could answer, since apparently it's this, like, all-knowing ancient being who is an important piece of Galar's history. All right, so moving on. This is the first time that Game Freak has decided to go with like big DLC expansions instead of doing a third game or an ultra series of the games. So, what do we think this means for the future of the series? Is this a good change? Will it stick, or will it kind of go back to the old way? Uh, where does Pokemon go from here? Steven, what do you think of the decision to start doing DLC?
I think it's a great idea. Honestly, I feel like if they would have been able to do it prior to this, they would have. I mean, I don't think the infrastructure was really there to be able to do it, or if not that, at least maybe Nintendo's, you know, foraying into DLC over the past couple of years has really kind of set the stage for this to happen. But I think it's a wonderful idea. It's it really gets rid of the need for a full price enhanced version of the game with minor changes here and there, like in the good old days. But yeah, I mean, you're getting a lot of content presumably for half the price of the base game, and I don't see how anyone could necessarily think that was a bad idea.
Well, Twitter says otherwise, but yeah, and also like they said, you're keeping your save data too, so it's like, when you played Yellow, you were basically getting 90% the same experience as Red or Blue, but you had to restart from level 1 again, and catch everything again. So it's adding all the new content without any redundancy and at half the price.
I think this is probably the best thing they could have done, because, I mean, even when Pokemon Sword and Shield came out, we were kind of like, yeah, it feels like a demo and that's it. Like, where's the rest of the game?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the rest of the game. I think this is perfect because so often in Pokemon games, people would beat it, they'd become the champion, and then they'd be done because there was really nothing else to do. With this, I'm hoping that it kind of answers that question of like, well, now that I'm champion, what do I do? Maybe you can go to this aisle because you're the champion. Maybe it has something to do with like it's exclusive for champions, gym leaders, and something like that. So it's supposed to be like this special thing, Mm-hmm. I think this is probably the best way they could have done that, because I know I personally probably wouldn't have paid for a whole nother game when I had just bought this game. So,
well, I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but this doesn't necessarily have to be the last DLC. And so if they really wanted to do more and continue to support this at least all the way through the next main game, DLC provides them a much easier way of doing that. They're not limited to, we're only going to make one game between Gen 8 and Gen 9. We gotta cram everything into it, or maybe cut ideas that don't fit. Now they can have that freedom to explore and kind of just be creative with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, playing devil's advocate a little bit on the other side though, my main concern is just that I don't want to set a precedent of Game Freak feeling they can kind of rush a game out and then it's fine because the updates will come later when those updates are in fact paid. I really enjoyed Sword and Shield, but it's like the wild area feels pretty empty, and the early game I think is really well paced, plenty to do, but the last few gyms, it's like there's a bunch of towns that are barely more than a Pokemon Center and a gym. And so it's like this new content's great. I love it. I'm buying it. I'm going to play the heck out of it. But it doesn't sound like, it's going to change the fact that the base game was a little bit empty feeling. And it was also, the first time that a main series Pokemon game cost $60 instead of $40. So, we'll see. My hope is that Game Freak learns their lesson from this and doesn't feel like they need to rush the next gen out. They can take their time with DLC, like you were saying, Steven, and then they can make their next full new generation a much more polished experience. They have time. They can do DLC. They can do remakes. They can do spin-offs. Don't rush the next generation. Make sure that if people are going to accept that this is the new norm, buying a $60 base game and then paying for DLC afterwards. If that's going to be the new norm, then they have to feel like that they're getting their money's worth with the $60 purchase before they also slap down another $30. So, and I would say yes, I personally am getting $60 out of Pokemon Sword and Shield because I'm a crazy person who will spend, a couple hundred hours training my Pokemon for competitive and making sure they have the right IVs and EVs and everything. But the base game was a little lacking in content.
Kind of on the other side of that coin, if I would have known that they were going to be coming out with DLC, I probably would have held off on buying it because they're going to do some type of a bundle.
Yeah, there's a good chance.
With the DLC and the real game. So if I knew that, I probably would have held off for buying Sword and Shield. I mean, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of just like, well, now I have to slap down more money for these DLC packs when I could have potentially waited and gotten the game and the DLC packs bundled.
So do you think that, maybe next generation you or people like you might not buy at launch because you're anticipating DLC?
Probably. I mean, I didn't really buy Pokemon Sword and Shield at launch either. I waited not more than a month, but over a few weeks. I kind of waited. And that's probably just because I hadn't played a Pokemon game since Ruby and Sapphire, the original Ruby and Sapphire.
It's come a long ways.
Yeah, and it was kind of like that was why, and also having it on the Switch, can't deny how good that is.
Sure.
So I was just kind of like, you know what, it's been a while. I think it's time. But yeah, I mean, in the future, it might discourage me from buying it right away, but I'm also kind of like, maybe I'll wait. I don't see the harm in waiting, but, you kind of miss out on the memes.
Yeah, chances are what's going to happen is that I'll buy it, and then I'll, bug you about it until you buy it, and then that's just how that's going to go down.
That's kind of like what actually happened.
Pokemon sales come from peer pressure.
Yeah.
But on a more positive note for me, since I was just a Debbie Downer there, I do really like the fact that Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra both have that kind of open world feel to them with a free camera. And they've said that those two expansions combined will be, larger and full of more content than the wild area. So by the time that's all added, it might be the case that more of the game is open world and free camera than not. And I think this is them slowly building towards, hopefully, the entire next generation having that free camera and hopefully feeling like a more fleshed out and living world than the wild area did.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic on that front.
Mm-hmm.
All right, was there anything else you two wanted to touch on?
Well, I think, actually going back to the DLC for just a second, I think
Sure.
one of the really good things they're doing with this is that they aren't locking things behind that paywall for people who don't want to buy it. I mean, they expressly said that, the new dens you can participate in as long as you know someone who has it and they're doing it. So you don't necessarily have to buy that content yourself. You can still take part. You just might not be able to start it up or anything. But I think it's
and
really
you can
good
trade too.
Right, you can trade, you can do, and I think that's just a really wise move on their part to just be like, hey, if you want all this stuff, then you can pay for it. If not, you can still get it. You might have to put in a little bit more work, but we're not going to absolutely force you to get it in order to get those new Pokemon, for instance.
Yeah. I'm curious if you'll be able to get all of the new Move Tutor moves over to your Pokemon without getting the DLC. But also, if you care enough about Pokemon and having a good moveset to want to Move Tutor, then you'll probably buy the DLC. So, all right, well, I think that wraps it up for us. So, thank you two for joining me. It was lovely chatting about Pokemon with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
And until next time, I don't know, maybe we'll do that 2020 predictions episode finally, unless something else exciting pops up. Actually, never mind. As I'm saying this, I just remembered we will be recording again soon because the 5th Smash DLC character will be announced. So that will actually be our next episode, and it'll probably be a shorter one. because we're just working off of one direct and one character. But you can look forward to that probably like sometime next week. So until then, you can find me on Twitter at Erimgard, ERIMGARD. Steven?
You can find me on Twitter at RedRollinsYum, RedRollinsYum.
And Kelly?
I'm also on Twitter. I'm at Kelly the Editor, KELLYTHEEDITOR.
All right, thanks again for joining me, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.